Hi there, Kern High School District Web Administrators. This is 7 Bates here, your web developer for the district. We're going to do a quick tutorial on aspect ratios today. The reason we're going to have it is because as I'm browsing around the school websites, I see a lot of our images that are being used for the main slideshows that go from something much like this to something like this, where people have been squashed down and squished. And I know why it is that a lot of our folks are doing this. It's because you're probably trying to resize your images in a program like Microsoft Paint. I'm pretty sure that you're probably getting an image very much like this, very huge 3,000 pixel image. You're choosing to resize the image and you're turning off the aspect ratio option and telling it 710 pixels by 300 pixels, which is of course our slideshow image. And that's how you end up with something like that. I understand that that's pretty much the only tool you've probably got right now. So I wanted to speak to you about that because Adobe Photoshop is the program that you should be using. And if you currently have access to Adobe Photoshop, then contact your administrators at your school because it is a necessary component of being a web administrator in the Kern High School District. They have access to getting you a license for Photoshop, and they can contact us and we can help facilitate that. If you have any hangups or interruptions or inability to get that, just contact me directly and let me know, because you have to have this product because there's going to be some more images coming down your way pretty soon that are going to require a little bit more involved Photoshop use with layered PSD files. I'll teach you more about that later on. So let's go ahead and get everybody up to date using the correct software. So in a program like Adobe Photoshop, you can see that this image, of course, is, let's just say this is the one I want to use for a slideshow for a post on my school website. The problem I have is if I go to image size, you'll see this image is about 3,000 pixels wide, which is obviously too big. So if I wanted to trim this image, I have a couple different ways to do it, but because I don't want to confuse you guys or give you anything with a lot of extra steps, I'm going to send you a file that is a slide show guide. And so attached with this image is this guide, and it's a PSD file, it's a Photoshop file that you will be able to then export and turn it into a JPEG or a PNG file for your website. This is a very simple thing. You just basically open it up with the email I send you, and over on the right here you'll see that it's got two layers. One of them is the background layer and the other is the guide layer. This guide layer I put in because it helps you see the elements that float above your images so that you can resize and move your image around without having anything block the content of your actual image. So I'm going to just basically walk you through that process because this is what you want to end up with and not this. So to get us there, I'm going to basically have you open up the slideshow guide that I sent you, and then you're going to open up the image that you want to use instead of trying to copy or paste it. Let's just kind of make it really simple. So just have you open up a window that has your image that you'd want to use, and if you just take that image, click it, and drag it over into Photoshop, when you see that little plus sign, that shows that Photoshop wants to place it inside the template. And as you can see, the image is automatically pushed in, and they've sort of resized it for you a little bit. As you can tell, it's not 3,000 pixels wide now. So on the edges, you'll see these little squares, and you'll see this X that's going over it. That tells you that an image is currently set to be resized and transformed. So I could take my mouse over to the edges and start dragging things over, and as you can see, that kind of squashes the image, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So what do we do here? Well, we basically just, when we drag our image in, we take our mouse over, and as you can see, it becomes the double arrow. That tells me that I've grabbed the image correctly. If I take my hand and I press down the Shift key and I press down the Alt key at the same time, I can now resize an image and maintain its aspect ratio no matter how I move it around. So now that I've got the width where I like it, I don't want to crop these guys' heads off. So I'm just going to take, basically come here in the middle, and when my arrow becomes a little black arrow, that tells me I can drag it and move it on. I'm just going to drag down until I've got the image just about how I want it. I want it about like that. I hit enter, and now my image is perfectly sized inside the frame template that I need for the perfect size for my slideshows. All I have to do at this point is choose to File, Save for Web, and my Save for Web dialog shows up, and it lets me choose to save it as a JPEG, quality of 60%. These are the default settings. The default settings are exactly what you need to use, because the 60% image, you can see it looks great, and it's got a very small 70 kilobyte size, so it goes from 832 kilobytes in its original to 70 kilobytes. That's perfect for our website. So I'm just going to choose to save that file, and I can put it anywhere on my hard drive and then upload that as the actual image for my slideshow. Now that I've got the image, saved and I'm ready to load it up, I do have the ability to go back and show you something that, basically, if you've got an image, and let's say it's not, a bunch of guys running, let's say you've got something and you want to make sure that this image isn't interfering with some of that overlay stuff, come over here to the layers that I was showing you earlier. As you can see, my track and field image is sitting on top of the guide. I want to see the guide over the track and field image so that I can see what my image would look like if it was on the website. So all I'm going to do is click this guide layer, and I'm going to drag it, and as you can see, it can just kind of snap above the track and field layer. And now you can see the guide as it sits above the image. And now for this image, that looks great. My guys are here, they're not obscured, and I like the way it looks. But let's say I was using another image. Let's say I had this young lady and I dragged, and a lot of you will sometimes get images that are in this portrait orientation instead of landscape, and that can be very, very frustrating. So let's just take this player. Well, here's my ball player, and I want to resize him, so I'm going to use this trick of holding down Shift and Alt. And I kind of like that good on him. Okay, I'm going to drop that there. I'm going to then take the guide layer and drag that above. And I don't want his elbow covered so much, so I'm going to drag him over here a little bit. Oh, now I've got this part of the graphic, so I can resize it again and kind of move that around. And see how that guide layer helps me really get a really strong feel for how I want things laid out. So I'm just going to keep on going until I get the image where I want it to be. And I also have the ability to rotate images, so I'm just going to rotate the image just a little bit. Hey, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. So now I can export that image. Of course, you want to turn the guide layer off when you do that, and then you could go to File, Save for Web, and just like before, save that image, and I would have it fitting exactly into the template that I need for the school website. So I hope this was able to give you a quick run through and some help in the process of avoiding squished images. If you had any trouble understanding any part of this, by all means contact me directly. If you do have any trouble getting access to Adobe Photoshop, please let me know. Your administrators do have access to licenses, and they can get those for you. But if there are any hangups at all, the IST department can help facilitate them being able to get you a copy of Photoshop so that you can begin moving forward with making all of our images look great for the district. Hope to hear from you soon. Take care.